This is The Gala Show. I'm your reporter on the beat, Gala Avery. On this episode, you may know my guest as a singer of Smash Mouth, a motorcycle enthusiast, or even as a voice actor for brands such as Taco Bell, Mattel, Hot Wheels, and Tostitos. But here on The Gala Show, I simply know him as my friend who loves watching movies, Zach Goode. Hi, Zach.
Hi, Gala.
So before we bring the topic today, I have a question for you. You're a dad to two wonderful boys. I love seeing pictures of them because they clearly have very different personalities, but I can see you in both of them. So what is one movie that you can't wait to show each of your sons?
Oh, wow.
And it can be a different movie for each boy because I'm sure they have different tastes.
Put me on the spot. Well, they've both seen a lot of movies and a lot of weird movies. I tried to show them all the weird stuff I watched as a kid, you know, Yellow Submarine and...
That's like one of the best ones to show them.
Yeah. What's the Belgian cartoon one, the French one?
Fantastic Planet.
Fantastic Planet. Is that what it's called? Yeah.
Yeah, Le Planète Sauvage.
Yeah, that one. They were kind of creeped out by that one.
So was I.
Yeah. Shoot, what do I want to show them? They already watched all the Universal Monster Horror, the box set, and like that.
Because I know you and I have talked about like movies like sometimes that our parents showed us and like we were too young kind of to see them.
Right. Which is kind of an idea I'm working on for another project. Yeah.
And so it's like, are you waiting to show your son something? Like, is there something that you're like, this is too good to show you right now?
Yeah, no, there's a ton. I mean, a lot of the 80s stuff, which is like, you know, the it's too sexy or whatever. Like that's my favorite genre probably is like, you know, teensploitation, like
too sexy,
you know,
the genre of too sexy,
like, you know, like Fast Times and Last American Virgin and all that kind of stuff is obviously not appropriate for a 7 or a 10-year-old. But then there's lots of stuff that I saw as a kid, which, you know, you reassess years later because the rating system wasn't the same. Because I told you my dad owned basically the New Beverly of Provincetown, Massachusetts, where I grew up. So I grew up watching every possible, I mean, at age 10, you know, Rocky Horror, The Shining, Breathless, Road Warrior, Film Noir, John Waters, Pink Flamingo, every possible thing you could see as a 10-year-old. And almost none of that is appropriate. You know, like probably the one, like I saw The Shining and Clockwork Orange multiple times as a child.
I'm trying to remember the first time I saw those. I think I might have been a kid too.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, it sticks with you.
I remember when my dad showed me Deliverance. We used to fast forward through the squeal like a pig scene.
Wow.
We used to fast forward and then we would just watch the rest of it. And to be honest, still to this day, I do fast forward that.
Yeah, that's pretty disturbing. That's still disturbing.
It's still too disturbing for me as 27.
Well, the version that I used to watch The Shining of was one that my dad had taped off network television. So I still remember, like I memorized the lines, but it was all the edited lines. So, you know, he has this whole thing where he goes, you've had your whole freaking life to think things over. And so we sampled that on our first album like many years ago. And then there's the other part where she has the baseball bat and he's like, Wendy, you didn't let me finish my sentence. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm just going to bash your brains and I'm going to bash them right the hell in. So every time I watch The Shining, I remember the edited version. So I don't have an answer for you. There's so many movies I want to show to them. I actually want to show them Hard Day's Night soon.
Oh,
I think that would be a good one.
Have they seen Help?
They haven't seen Help or Hard Day's Night. Only Yellow Submarine, and then they watched a bunch of the Get Back thing, but they couldn't stick with it, you know, for all like whatever 3 hours. But they watched a bunch of it. So there's, I mean, you know, I have a huge collection here of stuff to show them.
Yeah,
I
you
do. So they will be watching all kinds of stuff, but I don't know. If kids are different these days, they don't necessarily care about the 70s and 80s stuff. Like, you know,
not yet.
You might have been the last generation of, you know, of kids that like their cool dads showed them stuff and they cared about it, you know?
Give them a few more years.
Yeah.
Once they're into like their teens. And then,
that's what I'm thinking,
and then girls start thinking it's kind of cool.
I'm hoping it's not just going to be YouTube and manga forever.
Yeah, manga's not so bad.
No, it's cool, but it's just...
Full disclosure.
There should be more.
I have a very large manga collection, so full disclosure.
Yeah, I got him. I got him this one for his birthday, Spy Family. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
And so I got him all 9, but then his mom had already got him 2 of them, so I returned them to Mitsuwa, which is like where I go shop for my manga, the Japanese market. And I know you want a Chainsaw Man, so I'm like, cool. So I got 2 Chainsaw Man 1 and 2. So we read the first one. I glanced at the second one, and it's full on boobage. It's like super inappropriate. I'm like, you can't read that one. I took it back. I thought they were all like, you know.
No. Chainsaw Man is definitely boobage. That's a level of boobage that I don't think he's ready for quite yet.
I need to look a little closer because he's only 10.
Yes, but you got him on a good path.
Yeah, I hope so.
I can give you some off-mic recommendations for your son.
Excellent.
Now, as always, my guest gets to bring their topic to the mic. Zach, what are we going to be talking about today, and why did you decide to choose it?
Well, the idea that I thought of for my episode is the idea of quote unquote the new guy. Because as people may not know or may know out there, I joined the band Smash Mouth about 2 years ago as the new singer, which people kind of found out about last week when Steve unfortunately passed away, the old singer of Smash Mouth. And so I think a lot of people didn't even know that I was in the band, or they see me from a distance like, oh, he looks kind of like that guy. So this last couple of weeks have been very interesting with lots of messages and new followers and, comments and the whole thing.
And questions about what's going on.
Yeah, because a lot of people didn't even know he's been out of the band for years, So, and I've been touring with them for 2 summers now, playing tons and tons of shows all over the world. But, I think there's like a group of people that, once they don't want to see anybody, they want the original lineup. They're like, it's not the same. And then there's a group of people that don't even know or don't care or don't notice. And then a group of people who like me or the new guy. So, and I've had that thought too before, like when I went to go see Journey a couple of years ago at the Hollywood Bowl and they had the new guy. And I'm like, Journey is, a lot of people like Steve Perry. I mean, the guy's like one of the best singers of all time. They had this huge success. It was very high profile with the new singer. And then, but I sat there looking at this sold out crowd and I'm like, but a lot of people like the new guy.
And a lot of people want to listen.
Yeah. So it's like, that kind of carries across, with music, obviously with high profile bands that we were talking about, AC/DC obviously, and Van Halen and Black Flag and Faith No More and all these other bands, not to mention all the 90s bands now, not just Smash Mouth, but, Alice in Chains, Stone Temple Pilots, Sublime. These guys all have new singers and they've all been touring, playing festivals for years and years and years with new singers, to varying degrees. Like, AC/DC is probably the highest level of where, they put an album out, Highway to Hell, Bon Scott dies. They come back with a new singer a year later and they put out with the 3rd best-selling album in history, Back in Black. So it's like that they pulled that one off pretty well, and Bon Scott's one of my, I love old AC/DC. Van Halen, same thing. They were more successful with the new singer, although people don't, some people like him, some people don't. Yeah. So, it's interesting. And then I thought about, that as a topic, as a connection to film, with, the new guy, that can go Batman, Spider-Man, James Bond.
Yeah, I have a few that I pulled out of my woodwork to discuss
I know
today.
One thing we had in common is the James Bond thing we talked about. I kind of got returned on to Moonraker from your podcast because I think I told you the story. It came out when I was like 9 years old and I was in Europe. My dad took me and my brother to Europe and we were in somewhere in Europe and he took us to go see it because that was like the movie of the week. It just came out. And they wouldn't let us in because I think it was rated R, or I don't think it was rated X. It couldn't have been rated X,
no,
right?
No, it couldn't have been.
Yeah, so it must have been a hard R at the time, or maybe we were in a country where they were more strict, or I don't remember. But for whatever reason, we couldn't get in. So I don't think I had a memory of seeing it. But then when you guys talked about it, I'm like, I don't know if I've actually ever sat and watched Moonraker. And like Quentin was goofing on it, and your dad was like loving it, and I think you loved it too.
Oh, I definitely loved it.
So I watched it like whatever that was a couple months ago, and I loved it. It's like so good. It has like the best of everything that James Bond. It's still cheesy, but it's so good. I've watched like 3 times in the last month.
I have too.
But like as a kid of the 70s and 80s, my first James Bond was Roger Moore. And I love Sean Connery. Obviously he's like amazing, but my first James Bond was I want to say Spy Who Loved Me, right? That's the one with the in Egypt, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Oh God, my Bond knowledge is being tested.
Yeah, no, that's the one with Crispin Glover's dad is the bad guy.
Oh,
they drop the scorpion on their,
yes.
and then Jaws, the pyramid, and the whole thing. So that was like my first memory.
Or is that Diamonds Are Forever?
Diamonds Are Forever.
Diamonds Are
So
Forever.
I'm sorry. Spy Who Loved Me is Sean Connery.
Yeah,
that was his, okay. Diamonds Are Forever. Sorry. So that was my first time seeing Bond, and so in my mind, like Roger Moore was James Bond. Then later on, I discovered
he was the new guy.
He was the new guy. So he pulled it off pretty well for a while.
Yeah. I think that's a great topic. I think we're gonna get on. I think we're gonna get on in there.
I think I've rambled so much. The topic we're already out of time.
No, we're not out of time because you know what? I'm going to be starting our timer now. The topic for today is the new guy.
But first, it's time for a commercial break. And we're back.
30 minutes on the clock, and our time starts now. Well, I got to ask the first question. How does it feel to be the new guy?
It feels simultaneously totally natural and completely bizarre. For some reason, when I auditioned for the gig, I've been in bands for 30 years. I've been a lead singer forever. I've had a zillion bands and put out tons of albums in different genres. And, but I never had, any huge success. I just kind of was plugging away, doing my thing. And when I saw the ad a couple years ago, Smash Mouth new singer, I was like, that's weird. Like, I don't think I fit into that, but I'll on a fluke.
Why not try?
I basically sent him an email. I said, like, hey, you want like I tell everyone, I'm like, hey, you want a guy with like some 90s tattoos and a dad bod? Like, I could step into that. Here's my YouTube page. As a kind of like, just as like not taking it too seriously. And they responded pretty quickly and like said, hey, here, film an audition. I did that. One thing led to another. I flew up to San Jose and went, met the guys. Then they narrowed it down into the final four, and I auditioned, and I ended up getting the gig. My first show was a festival in Mexico in front of 50,000 people. Like, just, okay, you're on. We practiced like 3 times.
Wow,
yeah,
really?
It was like Kings of Leon, Blondie, The Strokes, and us.
Wow.
And I was stone cold sober, totally just like, just experiencing the moment, because I'd trained my whole life for that. Like, I wasn't nervous at all. It was like, but I didn't know the crowd because it was it's a festival. So there's like a black curtain that parts and you're there, and there's literally 50,000
Wow.
people. Yeah, there's footage of it on YouTube. Some guy took drone footage, which is incredible. It's like, it shows
That must really
enormous.
add to like the out of body experience. Like when you watch it on a drone footage.
It was crazy. But our drummer, Randy, shout out to Randy Cook. He, right before we went on, like we had a little huddle backstage, like, all right, here we go. This is gonna be the show. And he pulls out like the Will Ferrell, like more cowbell. He's like, Zach, feel free to explore the stage. It's a big stage, So I went out there and I just like totally like worked the crowd and just like it totally clicked. And then people seemed to love it. And every show has been really good since then. And, I had no idea it would be such a natural fit. Like I thought that I had a higher voice, I have a different style, whatever. But for whatever reason, it seems to be working. People seem to like it. So in that way, it feels totally natural to be the new guy. On the other hand, I'm replacing an iconic frontman who has this very distinctive voice, and people have this crazy, like very, unlike some other bands where it's just a band. Like Smash Mouth has this, very
iconic,
90s Shrek meme thing going on.
The Shrek thing is definitely big shoes to fill.
Maybe we should talk about Shrek for half an hour.
I know. Just like start talking about like Donkey.
Is Puss in Boots the new guy?
Okay, well, I love Puss in Boots 2. Specifically 2. Like I
haven't seen it.
I don't really care about Puss in Boots 1, but Puss in Boots 2. This is what you need to show your children.
So it's like Bride of Frankenstein, Road Warrior. It's like it's like the sequel's better than the original.
The sequel is definitely better than the original.
Interesting.
You need to show your sons that.
I think they saw it. I think Mom took them to see that one
yeah.
without me. I don't think I could take any more Shrek in my life.
Well, actually, I don't blame you.
People come in costume. They come in. They throw us, VHS tapes to sign.
No way, really?
Oh yeah, one of the first shows, someone threw a Shrek VHS on stage, and was like, here, this is for you. It's like over and over again. So I finally got my attention. I'm like, oh, cool, thanks. I took it. We played the show. We left and like went to the next town. Then I realized when I got home, like, oh, he wanted me to sign. So our guitar player searched him out and did detective work and found the guy on social media, and we all signed it and mailed it to him. I was like, sorry,
so
I'm the new guy. I don't know about this stuff yet.
It's interesting though, like to call like the new guy, because like when we were talking about bands, it's like you definitely have a new guy that fits into like kind of the greater scheme of things, and it has a catalog of music that's already been made, and then more music that will be made. And then someone like a character like James Bond, it's just like an actor that's being cast in a role and like a character. So
it is different. I mean, obviously, I guess Batman and Spider-Man not as much, because they're wearing masks for one thing in terms of bringing their personality to the role. So I guess if you're like Max Weinberg, the new drummer for Slipknot. I'm sorry, not Max, his son Weinberg. He wears a mask, so he's the quote unquote new guy from Slipknot, but he gets to wear a mask, so he blends in. It's a lot easier, probably.
I don't know. I'm a Tobey Maguire Spidey girl.
Yeah, I just rewatched those pretty recently for the first time in a long time. You know what though? I really love Andrew Garfield now. Like as an actor, like I wasn't on board at all during the Spider-Man years.
Guy.
I don't know. He seemed too tall, and like he just didn't seem like the right body type to me. I don't know. I didn't hate him, but
you get used to what's already on screen.
Yeah, and But honestly, he's done like a handful of movies now that I love, like the Rent movie he did, the musical. Because I started in Rent a couple years ago, so I'm super into Rent. But this movie that no one else cares about or has seen that I bring up to everyone, this movie called Under the Silver Lake.
Oh yeah,
which I love. It's like my favorite neo noir of the last like bunch of years. I watch it it's like a comfort movie and has all these amazing LA locations, and I love it. I think it's a cross between like The Big Sleep and The Big Lebowski. I think it's brilliant, but it totally flopped. Like nobody I know
a few people who like that movie. It's like they either really love it or they've never heard of it.
Yeah, it's pretty much. I think the director did It Follows.
I've seen that one.
And The Myth of the American Sleepover. I think something like that.
I haven't seen that, but I've seen It Follows.
They're both great. I mean, I love it. Anyway, Andrew Garfield grew on me, and then that TV show he did with the Mormon killing thing that was
I haven't seen that.
on Hulu. It was really good.
Do you think it's better to like put your own spin on it, like when you're the new guy? Or
well, that's the question right there. So that's kind of what you have to do. You have to put your own spin on it, but you also have to
be faithful to
the legacy, unless you're going for, I mean, the best example of that is probably Faith No More, because before Mike Patton, they were this like punky band with this like singer that was super iconic and weird. And when Mike Patton joined, he had a completely different voice, and they had a huge career, So you have to make a conscious decision to say, okay, I'm going to go in a totally new direction with the new guy. We're going to go full on Sammy Hagar, or you have to say we're going Alice in Chains, and you want the guy to sound, as much like the old guy as possible.
Well, I think there would be a fear that like it would almost be, I don't want to say mockery, because if you're stepping into someone's shoes and like you imitate them so well that all of a sudden it's like, are you just imitating or are you honoring? Like, is there ever that worry?
Yeah, no, all the time. I mean, I tend to have a higher tenor, kind of like my natural singing voice is more like, Peter Gabriel or Elvis Costello or Sting or Pixies, or like more of a higher kind of rangy voice. Whereas Steve's voice is very chesty, baritone, throat, chest voice. And so that was my main concern. Like physically, can I do it? Like, will it tear up my throat? And for some reason, it just clicks, and it just seems to work. And, I don't think I sound that much like him, but I see the comments and they're like, he sounds exactly like him. So
that's so funny. And also I think it helps that like you were like chosen by the band. Like they brought you in. They accepted you, right?
No, they've been amazing.
Right?
Yeah,
right?
No, they're amazing. They've all been great. And they're happy to be working and to everybody gets along, and so that's been awesome. I think part of it is just because I have a background in theater and acting and
performing
and doing plays and memorizing scripts and doing voiceovers and things like that. So I'm pretty good at like just grabbing onto something and doing it. Hey, do this in an English accent, do this in whatever. So it's like I kind of can imitate him enough where it sounds close enough to be good and add my own little flair to it.
Yeah, so
I don't like to talk about my flair.
Yeah, don't talk about your flair. Stop talking about your flair. With all these like bands that have like the old guy and new guy, do you like both? Are you able to like both, or are you like, I like the old guy or I like the new guy?
Well, I mean,
because it's different. It's like different but the same.
It is. Well, the biggest. I mean, the ongoing biggest argument is Van Halen. That's the number one.
Okay, tell me what this argument. I'm not a music person.
Yeah, you're younger and you're not like the hard rock. fan,
No. I'm like a pop girl.
Well, like AC/DC, Bon Scott and Brian Johnson are both awesome. Like they're both Highway to Hell and Back in Black are both iconic metal. So it's like no one really says I hate the new guy because he just worked. Same with like a band like Black Flag, where, people have different favorite of their different, whatever, four singers, but, Henry Rollins basically became like the iconic frontman of that band. But with Van Halen, for whatever reason, Diamond Dave was such a personality and they were so huge. Like if you're old enough to be around in summer of '84 when that album came out and Panama and Jump and all that, MTV, it was like the biggest thing ever. And it was awesome. It was like, I'm not a big metal guy, but I mean, they were, Van Halen's like, one of the, iconic American bands of all time. And right at the peak of that, Dave quit and went solo. And they got Sammy Hagar in. And Sammy Hagar was successful in his own right, but it was a different vibe. He was more of like he was just Sammy, So he was just so, and I don't know. I was not a fan. I never bought an album after, I was totally anti-new guy.
Really?
Yeah, I was totally anti-new guy for many, many years. And it was only in the last like 10 years that my old bass player, who's like younger and was a Van Hagar fan, he was like, "You have to watch the concert movie Live Without a Net," which is like the live movie they made just after he joined, I guess. And it's awesome. It's like it's total Van Halen, but with him singing. And I thought it was really impressive. And so he kind of grew on. Like, I'm still not the biggest fan of their music because it's a little more poppy and lightweight than the Roth years. But, you know, Sammy as a person, I think, is awesome. And he had the last laugh because he's living his best life right now.
What about when the new guy performs the old guy's music, though?
Oh, so that was one of the, in that band specifically. I don't remember the exact demands, even though I just read his biography. But I think Sammy basically refused to sing old Van Halen stuff, except for I think they did Panama and maybe one other one. I don't know if they did Jump. I don't think they did Jump. But I definitely did Panama. That might be the only one. So that was the incredible thing, is that they didn't rest on their laurels. They made a new album. They continued to make new albums, and they had huge smash hits. And they sold, even though they're the biggest band in the world before Sammy joined, they ended up selling more records after he joined.
Wow.
Yeah. But they were all like, you know, they're all like super radio friendly, you know, like love song type of things, you know.
I guess that's why they sold so many.
I guess it was just their moment too. But so yeah, so they were. You have to respect a band that can play a 2-hour concert and not play any of their old hits. Just play new stuff
and also
be
like
successful at it.
The thing that people probably want to hear, they probably want to hear some of the old hits, and so
of course,
it's really nerve wracking. Like going to,
could you imagine going to see like Led Zeppelin and them not playing Stairway to Heaven? It's like
no.
You know, or going to see Smash Mouth and we're not going to play All Stars tonight. You know,
going to Carly Rae Jepsen and she doesn't play Call Me Maybe. Come on,
exactly, same thing.
My nightmare, absolutely
worst. So yeah, but they did it.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I think they're the only ones that did it.
Do you think it matters, like, why the new guy is replacing the old guy?
I think it matters why the new guys are replacing.
Because I've been thinking about this because, like, for example, one of these like new guys versus old guys that I did not grow up watching Bewitched, but my dad did, and Dick York and Dick Sargent. It's the famous one,
sure.
And it's partially because Dick York had a back injury and he like literally physically was not able to continue. And
we didn't know that when we were kids.
Yeah, and he continued on as long as they could, and then they started introducing Dick Sargent, who kind of took over, and he played the character differently because like Dick York playing Darren, he was like shocked by the magic, and then the whole reasoning behind Sargent was that like by the time that he stepped in, his character would not have been as shocked by the magic.
Right. Yeah. No, I remember it being a thing when I was a kid for sure. Before, you know, the internet discussion groups existed, just like, you know, like, what's going on here? I mean, same with, I think
and they're both named Dick, which is confusing.
That was weird. And then I think Marilyn from the Addams Family too, they replaced her. The other one that was big when I was a kid was, when they did the Brady Bunch reunion specials, and Jan didn't do the reunion, so they had a different actress playing Jan in like very Brady Christmas or Brady Brides, or one of those like made for TV movies that I was super into Brady Bunch as a kid.
What is that? Oh God, I can't remember the TV show name right now, but like Alfalfa's on it.
Our gang, Little Rascals.
Yeah, like Little Rascals, our gang. I think there's like through the season, like one of the characters, like at first it's like a girl and then it's like a boy and girl, or it's a boy and then it's a girl in boy's clothing and then it's like a boy again. Like they keep on. Yeah, there's like a few episodes.
I used to be really into Little Rascals.
I need to find.
It's all filmed in Culver City.
Oh really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, if you watch the old ones, if you get the box sets, and you could see like when they do like the drag races on the street, you could recognize Washington Avenue and Culver Hotel and all that stuff.
So
yeah, same with Laurel and Hardy, all the Hal Roach stuff.
God, I love all this LA
Hal
stuff.
Roach Studios was Sony.
Yeah.
Well, the Little Rascals would change their entire cast every few years.
Oh, would they?
Yes,
okay.
they had different eras. So they had like before Spanky and Alfalfa and Darla and Buckwheat, there was a whole nother silent.
I love Spanky.
I love all of
Spanky's my favorite.
Well, you know Jackie Cooper, who the actor who played he played the boss in the Superman movies in the 80s. He was a Little Rascal, and so was Robert Blake.
Oh my God, it's kind of like the Disney...
the totally not guilty murderer Robert Blake.
Yeah, it's like
he was Mickey Gubitowski in the old Little Rascals.
It's like the Disney Mouseketeers before the Mouseketeers.
Exactly, Ryan and Ken.
Yeah.
Jan, and then the other one that was big for me in the 90s, which was weird, was when they made the Twin Peaks movie, and the Fire
Walk with Me.
Yeah, and they replaced what's her name with Moira Kelly.
I don't know. I watched that on a date.
What's the brunette's name? I'm drawing a blank. It's been 30 years.
I can't remember. I've watched that on a date, and like I totally don't remember any of it.
Lara Flynn Boyle.
Oh, I love her.
So yeah, for the movie, she was replaced inexplicably by Moira Kelly, which I was fascinated by. That was never explained.
Yeah,
But then again, actually speaking of Robert Blake,
then
in his other movie, he just changed out the lead actor halfway through the movie. In Lost Highway.
And then also the oh my God, I just watched it for the Bev calendar. the movie. Oh, God, I can't. Why can't I remember the name? Not Discreet Charm and the Bourgeoisie.
Eating Raoul?
No. Oh gosh, I'm gonna come back to this.
Oh, the Fellini one.
No, not Fellini. It's it double feature with Discreet Charm of the Bourgeoisie, where it's like he has two actresses playing the same character.
Yeah, I heard you talk. I've never seen that one.
I can't.
That was one of my
believe
blind
I'm
spots.
blanking on the name. Oh my gosh, drats. Anyway,
I have the schedule right on my desk.
I know, no, it's okay. But it's funny though because it's like you have all these people that are like playing the same character, and I think also for Twin Peaks, it's like you can attribute to that. Oh, that's just David Lynch.
Dream Logic.
Yeah, he's just doing Dream Logic.
Yeah.
But there is like some production reason as to why she did not return.
Like in Back to the Future, what was it, 3, when Crispin Glover didn't?
Well, and that created that whole entire, there's a whole clause in SAG now because of that.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
they used like a guy that looked, for those of you that don't know the story, when Crispin Glover did not return to Back to the Future, I think it was the second one, as the father character, they basically had a stand-in pretend to be him, and it looked like him, and it kind of, I think it sounded like him, but it wasn't him, and he sued and won, and now there's a whole rule about it. I forget what the rule has a really cool name.
It's basically the 80s version of AI.
Yeah.
It's like real life AI just
Yeah.
replacing it, and you're like, you can't, that's like,
You can't do that.
But I think two is actually the best one. I love 2.
I like 1 and 2. I
mean,
feel like
one is
when
obviously great,
but when you
but-
watch 1 and 2 back to back, it's so perfect.
Speaking of one to show my kids, so I finally showed them 1 back,
they like
Back to the
it?
Future, and they really liked it. But I waited till like pretty recently because, we always check like Common Sense Media to see if it's appropriate for kids, and you find out that a lot of these 80s movies are not appropriate for kids that you thought that were. I mean, I guess it's fine, but I tend to be more protective because my parents weren't.
Yeah, there's this website called, I think it's called Does the Dog Die?
Oh, yeah.
And you can go on and it'll give you like a bunch of tags for like a bunch of stuff that happens.
We
in the
use
movie.
Common Sense Media, which is basically
Yeah.
the same thing. So it's basically user, the parents say, all good except for the date rape scene, which is, highly inappropriate. So that was the scene that I was worried about, the car scene.
Yeah.
Where Biff like tries to rape her basically. And, but it goes by, we finally watched it and I was like waiting for it to happen. It goes by so quick. And then the good guy, Crispin Glover, comes in and
Punches
him.
him.
And so it kind of went over quick and it was not a big deal. But then we didn't have time to watch the second one back to back. So it's like, it's been in the queue for like 6 months now and I got to get to that.
No, you got to get to that with your kids.
But the other one was Goonies. I was like, oh, this is totally kid friendly, and it's like really scary and lots of cursing.
Goonies is kid friendly though. I mean, okay,
I
like
guess, but they were like 5. Like that's a little. I think
okay,
it was a couple years
5.
ago.
I'm trying to remember when I first saw Goonies though. I turned out fine.
Yeah,
you turned out fine.
Yeah, it's not going to be. I mean, it's not going to be scarred. The worst is they'll have these, big DVD collections of cult movies from Vinegar Syndrome and Severin that they'll have to cart from house to house for the rest of their lives, like me. That's what happens. You get hooked on cult movies early.
Oh yeah, then you have them for the rest of your life. But it's important to get hooked on physical media. Like 28 Days Later, you can't get the DVD of that. You can't stream it. It's like one of the hardest movies to find right now because it's all tied up with rights issues.
Yeah, there's
The
definitely there's a few of those.
goes for so much money right now.
Really?
It's crazy how much 28 Days Later is worth.
I don't think I have it. I'm trying to think.
I know now you're like, oh, where is
I
mine?
haven't watched that one since it came out.
I know I haven't seen
I
it.
don't remember that. I don't remember it that well.
I just remember there's like that one shot of like I think he's like looking up and like a zombie blood like drips in someone's eyeball.
I've literally. I think I'd resisted seeing that one for years because I conflated it with Sandra Bullock, 28 Days, the rehab movie.
Oh,
And I'm like, I don't want to see a movie about rehab.
it's funny. When I was younger, I used to like argue about like the 28 Days Later thing with everyone because I'm like, it's not a zombie movie, it's a rage film, and it's like I'm so persnickety in my 17-year-old
Yeah, you're
mind.
like a boss.
So when you have new guy versus old guy, James Bond,
Yeah.
you got to talk about it because for you, James Bond, Roger Moore like was the OG for you when you watched it, and
Yeah.
then you find out later he is the new guy, and then eventually he becomes the old guy.
I was pretty snobby about Bond when in high school because I actually, just I have to admit, I don't think I've ever seen the Timothy Dalton, Pierce Brosnan ones.
I have.
I think I think I saw one of them, and I just never. It's not that I was like super anti. I was just like, oh, it's like.
What about the Daniel Craig ones? You've seen those?
I love the Daniel Craig. I think I was as anti as anybody. Oh, blonde Bond, da 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 da. And then I saw it. And I was like, this is amazing. I love Daniel Craig now.
What about Lazenby? Have you seen Lazenby?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. No, he was great. I mean, Majesty's Secret Service is is a great Bond. I haven't rewatched it super recently, but it has one of the best end title songs with Louis Armstrong.
Yeah.
We have all the time in the world. No, he was good. I don't really remember him specifically being better or worse than anybody else, but he was fine.
Yeah, I read this thing that Roger Moore said where he was like, look, no one will believe that I can beat up a man like Sean Connery could.
Right.
But I can make him laugh.
Right.
And so he was like, I'm going to put, just like how we talked about, he was going to put his complete own
played
spin.
it for laughs, yeah.
He played it for laughs. He's
Yeah.
like, just totally going to do that. And I think Pierce Brosnan succeeded in.
I heard he's good. I need to watch those. I don't think I've watched those
Yeah.
movies.
And I noticed that Timothy Dalton, my guy friends love those movies. But like, I don't find him
I
like.
got kind of bored with them in the 80s because everything was about the Cold War and Russians. It just got kind of repetitive.
That makes sense, like the subject matter itself rather
yeah,
than
I just wasn't
Bond.
super interested in, like, I think when they have a really interesting, villain is when it's more interesting to me.
Yeah, and I also, the thing about Bond that's interesting is we talked about how, like, with the David Lynch or Fire Walk with Me when he replaces the actors, it's just like a David Lynch thing. With Bond, there's this whole debate. Okay, is Bond the same guy throughout this entire series, or is James Bond like a pseudonym? Like, is he just an agent? Like, is he a different person for each of these or not?
I just think it's an endless reboot, right? With Batman, like how many times have they done that? And you could just like tell. Like, I'm glad they finally stopped like leaning into the origin story with the parents getting killed and the whole thing. It's like every time they make the movie again, they have to tell the whole story again. It's like just pick it up later on in the story, I don't know. Because I mean, how could you have
like? I think 007 is like an agent. And like anyone could be 007.
No, that's true. Because that's how the last movie ended.
And like I
right?
think James Bond is like anyone could be James Bond. Like they could just put anyone in like in the universe itself. But some people I know are like, no, James Bond is the same person because like his wife and stuff.
Yeah,
and,
I think it's an actual person. I mean, 007 is because did you see the newest movie?
Yeah, I did.
So that's
unfortunately.
I thought it was really good. But they basically they have a new 007 basically, but it's not. But she's not James Bond.
Yeah.
But
I don't like that.
Really?
I don't like it. I don't like it.
I don't know. I enjoyed it.
I guess I'm hating on the new girl. So not the new guy, but the new girl.
The new girl.
I wonder if she's gonna be.
I think they make movie. I thought that was just.
I don't know.
The storyline.
Maybe they will
actually
make. I don't know. Maybe I don't think they're gonna have a female James Bond.
I mean, no. But I do think.
No.
The patriarchy will allow the box office to.
Let's be real. I'm gonna be real really quick. My favorite thing about James Bond is that he beats anyone up, regardless of who they are. Like when he fights Bambi and Thumper and Diamonds Are Forever, like in that weird pool.
Oh, yeah.
It's so freaking badass. Like Bambi and Thumper are like.
Is that the one where he chokes out the woman though? That was.
I think he chokes out the.
That kind of freaked me out as a kid.
It kind of freaks you out, but you know what though? He does not discriminate. If you're trying to kill him,
Right.
he will get you. I'm down with that.
I thought your favorite thing was Daniel Craig and those little tidy, those little short.
Definitely not Daniel. Sorry to Daniel Craig if you're listening to this, but you're not my favorite Bond.
He's pretty badass though. I liked it.
I think I like got Daniel Craig fatigue because I saw he was in so many movies. He was like in that like Ghost House
Layer
movie.
Cake.
But he was in like a Ghost House movie, and then he was in that Cowboys versus Aliens movie.
Yeah.
I saw all of those in theaters, and I was just like Daniel Craiged out.
So are you a fan of the what's the Knives Out series?
No.
Yeah, I liked him. His voice, his accent really bothered me, but and I didn't love the first one. And I kind of felt the same about both. I thought they're really well made and really interesting, but they didn't super grab me.
Yeah, I think everyone has like their pet peeves, like in movies, and like Quentin, like he hates sex scenes that have food in them.
Sex scenes with food.
That's like what. So he must have like hated. Well, he
I'm
actually
trying to
does
think of an
hate.
example.
Well, the cook, the thief, the wife, and her lover.
I haven't seen that
Like
since
he
I was
does
a
not
kid.
like that movie. I saw it recently. I liked it and enjoyed it. But like for me, I don't like vomiting.
Oh yeah, the worst.
And that was like in the Knives Out thing, wasn't there? Like a whole vomit, like whenever she lies or
Oh
whatever.
my God,
she
I just
vomits.
watched a movie on the plane. What did I just watch? What's it called? Triangle of Sadness.
Oh yeah, and that has the whole. I was actually told by my
It has
friends Gala.
it has like a half an hour of like.
Yeah, they told me Gala, just so you know, there is like half an hour of vomiting in this movie.
And active diarrhea,
And that's
like
the other thing-
graphic diarrhea.
that's the other thing
like
I
coming
hate.
out of the. I'm like, why are you showing
That's
this?
the other thing I hate. I hate diarrhea and I hate butt jokes in movies. Like so, everything everywhere all at once when they have to grab the thing, they're like, I'm gonna put the statue at my butt to change. I hated that. Bridesmaids when the bride is in the street pooping, hated that.
What about Quentin? What about the Christopher Walken scene with the watch up his
I'm
ass?
sorry, I don't like it.
Dad write
that? I don't think so. Dad, if you're listening, didn't like it.
So did you see Triangle of Sadness yet?
No, because I don't have any desire to see it. And like, there's a few things. And like, my friend, when my film club came to town, and we were deciding what we were going to watch because they were there for like 3 days. And so we ended up seeing Shane and Monty Walsh. But the other choice was Gummo. And my friends know I don't like any kind of animal abuse or anything.
I almost wore my Gummo shirt today.
Yeah.
I was going to try to impress you with
Good choice you didn't. I like the Black
I wore
Sabbath
my Black
shirt, though.
Sabbath shirt. The movie, not the band.
Yeah, exactly. But like they know I don't like animal abuse, and they're like, "God, we're not gonna make you see Gummo. I know you'd sit up with us with the Gummo, but I know your fist would be clenched like that Arthur meme where like Arthur like has his like fist clenched. That'll be me in Gummo.
Yeah, that's a rough one. But just to wrap up, so Triangle of Sadness, I hated the first act because it's like 3 distinct acts.
Yeah.
I hated the first act. I despised the second act, and I loved the third act. It's all on an island.
Without giving it away, like, was it tonally different or like what?
It's a different setting. So like basically the first act is like 2 models arguing for a half an hour, like literally just arguing about money. And the second act is all on a boat when everyone gets sick and then starts barfing and all this crazy stuff happens. And it's like
even like thinking about that.
It's gross. But then the third act, I don't want to spoil anything, but they basically are on a desert island, and the way things progress is so interesting and not expected that it's really, really, it's worth seeing just for that. Like it's a cool movie. But I fast forwarded over half the barf scenes. I couldn't take it. It was so graphic.
Yeah, I'm definitely not watching that.
I don't like animal abuse or barfing. And if you,
I think we don't like the same things. So.
Did you ever watch that show Lilyhammer?
No.
The one that Little Steven made after Sopranos?
No, I don't watch like I watch a ton of reality TV, but not a ton of scripted television.
Well, fun fact, it was actually the first show ever on Netflix, the very first Netflix show. It was it was right before House of Cards. So it's like 10, 12 years ago. Great show. He basically plays the same character he plays in Sopranos, but he's in Witness Relocation. He moves to Norway, fish out of water. It's really good. But the very first scene of the pilot is killing a dog. And I'm like, I'm out. But I stuck with it, and I'm glad I did. So sometimes I can make it.
Well, it was interesting. So my dad was up for doing American Psycho, to adapt American Psycho.
Before
it was.
Years ago?
Yeah. And because he had worked with Brett before, obviously. And he just didn't want to do it because that dog sequence in the book, it said it's really, really graphic. And he declined it because of the dog killing. And then he woke up in the middle and was like, okay, I figured out how to do it. And he called him and like, oh, sorry, we already got someone. But I think the movie turned out great.
It's a masterpiece.
And I like American Psycho because it's made all by women.
I was gonna say, and women wrote it and directed it
and
too.
Produced it too.
Yeah.
Roberta Hanley is the female producer on it.
I need to rewatch that. I used to watch that a lot back when it came out, like that and like Fight Club and a couple other ones. And I kind of overdosed on those and I haven't rewatched them in a while. But
I'm not a Fight Club fan.
I like Fight. It's not one of my big movies, but it's.
I saw it with my ex, so maybe that's
why.
Kind
of a classic. There were some good 90s, 2000s movies that have, I have a lot of that I come back to, like Ghost World's one of my all-time favorites. Sideways, I love Sideways, like Alexander Payne.
It's so funny. I remember like Ghost World. I saw that movie. I was at a film school summer camp at Pepperdine, and I saw it like there, and I was like on. I don't know. It's weird. It's like weird when you like have like a memory of exactly where you saw a movie.
Yeah. You should rewatch that. It's so rewatchable. It holds up so well. Because I was the guy who wrote the comic that it was based on, Daniel Clowes. I was like super into his comic book 8-Ball in the 90s. And so he made Ghost World. They did Art School Confidential. I think another one. But so I already knew what the source material. So I was super into it. And that was also the first time Scarlett Johansson was, I'd heard of her.
Yeah.
And
she's great in the movie.
She's great. Yeah. And just the whole, it was so well done with sticking to the graphic novel. I love it.
Yeah, I love Clowes. I kind of lump him in with Charles Burns, like who did Black Hole. Have you ever seen his work?
Charles Burns, Black Hole.
I hope. Oh God, I hope that's his name.
You might have. Black Hole, is it the movie?
It's a comic book.
Oh no.
Oh, it's really good. It's about these kids that start getting like all these physical deformities on them, but it's actually an STD. So it's like a sexually transmitted disease, but like it shows like in horns and like all this stuff, and they can't figure out why it's happening.
Oh, I haven't heard of that one.
I like him because of his heavy use of black ink, like when he does his comic books.
Sure. Yeah, I kind of got out of the graphic novel. It was just too much.
Well, your son's back in it.
Yeah, and I still have my 3 long boxes of comics in the garage. So when he's ready, I have everything
so
for him
good.
still.
Yeah, my dad did that to me too.
I got all my X-Men from the 80s and all that stuff.
Yeah, my dad did that. I remember I got at school I got like banned for reading Sandman. They actually took my book away because it had nudity in it. Oh,
there was some in the 90s. There was like Faust. That was a gnarly one. Lobo. There was some like hard. They got pretty graphic in some of those.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah,
it's just funny though. I also took the Stand to school, and they took the Stand away from me. They're like, this is too mature for you at a 7th grade
banning
level.
Books.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just like you cannot watch.
We could do a whole nother podcast on just Stephen King adaptions and.
Yeah, well, I had Mick on, and he adapted several of them.
That's
so
right.
It was
most
great.
of them have been pretty good.
Yeah, I think they are pretty good. I think
there's
a lot to choose from.
I didn't realize like a Dead Zone was always one of my favorites as a kid.
Oh my God, Dead Zone's so good.
Is David Cronenberg?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that till like yesterday. I think on PCP they mentioned that, and I'm like,
I make everyone watch that. Yeah. Everyone has to watch Dead Zone.
I love Dead Zone.
Oh.
We just hit the dead zone.
We hit our dead zone. That's so funny. Our time is up. Zach,
No.
is there any final thought that you'd like to leave the audience with?
Go watch something besides superhero movies, and listen.
Like what?
To,
What would, if you could recommend one movie to the audience to go watch?
Oh my god. Well, I've mentioned a bunch already. I mean, the ones that formed me were the like 70s. You know, Harold and Maude is probably. If someone says, "What's your favorite movie?" I always say Harold and Maude.
That's a great
that
choice.
Was, that one's. I'll say Harold and Maude. Why not?
Yeah, and I'm going to say To Live and Die in L.A. because I saw that for the first time last night.
Yeah,
so
that's a
I'm
favorite.
And I cannot stress this enough. Whenever anyone says go watch a movie, do not look it up on Letterboxd. Don't read reviews to decide if you want to see it.
Right.
Just go see it.
Yeah, that's the best. Certain movies that I've seen throughout my life have been total surprises like that. Like I walked into Braveheart like that when it first came out. No way. I'm like, oh, Mel Gibson directed a movie. Okay, I'll go see it. And I was like, it blew my mind. That happens. Sixth Sense, another one.
That's one that, like, if you don't know the ending to Sixth Sense, you should go watch that immediately because my dad ruined that for me. I was next to the washing machine in our old house, and he's like, "You're not going to remember the ending of this," and then proceeded to tell me. And Dad, I still remember.
It's not super rewatchable because once you know, you know.
Once you know, you know. That, and also my dad. Sorry, Dad, I'm just like harping on you right now. He also ruined the ending of Bicycle Thieves for me when I
haven't
was
watched
like,
that in years. I don't remember
when
the
I was
ending.
like 15. I think that one I've forgotten because it's not as iconic. But
I don't remember
he was like, "You're not going to remember before you watch." Well.
Don't spoil it.
Yeah, don't spoil it. Come on, don't spoil
So yeah,
it.
go watch 70s movies because they're the best.
Yeah.
And, film noir and then also 80s teensploitation.
Yeah. Go do it. Thank you so much to Zach for coming on the show. If you'd like to keep up with Zach, you can find him on Instagram at dividedbyzach or on his website, zachgoode.com. That is ZACHGOODE.com. I'm Gala Avery, and this has been The Gala Show.